Internationalization. Do you have different users from different geographies, different regions on your web application? Then this video may be helpful for you. If your application is an enterprise-wide application, then definitely you would be looking at following three aspects. First one is a function to change the language of the content that you are showing on your web application. Secondly, remembering the changed language when a particular user is returned. And thirdly, especially a way to update the content on your web application related to different languages without actually doing any kind of code releases. So first and second options are generally available across all the applications, but when it comes to third option where you can change the content of the language bundle without doing any kind of code releases is kind of a lacking area in this particular domain. This is the architecture related to this research. And let's identify a role of each and every component. This is a web application which we are looking to integrate localization features, and these are the language bundles placed behind an API to support reading and writing while the application is up and running. And the languages can be maintained over an external data source which will enable adding new languages on the fly. Let's check out the users and their roles falling within this particular context. General user. The general user will be able to change the language preference and they will be able to view the content in their preferred language. On the other hand, we have the content editor. The content editor will be able to update the existing language bundles, and they will be adding new language bundles, and even they will be adding new languages into the system, especially on the fly. In order to support the user roles and their functionality, the application functions are designed in this particular manner, where the general user will be having access to the content and change into the preferred language. And the content editor can change the content on the fly. And access to those user roles can be managed over access control system. This is the main outcome of this research. No painful code releases upon change in the language bundles, flexibility of adding new languages and even new language bundles, then facilitate separation of language bundles maintenance and plus the technical dev roles. And finally, an option of translating raw data fetched from database to an online translators would be available on the system. Let's see a demonstration related to this research work. As you can see on the drop down, you can select multiple languages. For demonstration purpose, I have selected English and Spanish. If you change it to Spanish, the content will be changed into Spanish language, including the page content, navigation content, page headers, and everything. On the data list, you can see a sample implementation of React window, how you can integrate localization features into a particular list of data. And as you can see, when you change the language into Spanish, the whole content is getting transformed into the desired language that you have selected. Finally, we have an option of managing the language bundles. So it is available under Language Manager. So it shows all the modules and the language preferences that you have. Here we have English and Spanish, two different language bundles for each and every module. Let's check out the internal structure of a particular language bundle. If you go into the Commons English language bundle, the content is visible like this. It is in JSON format. And if you go to the Spanish file of the same, especially it's the same thing that you can see the key is same, but the value is different. So likewise, if you want to add multiple language bundles, you can do so. Let's go and change a particular language bundle and see how it is resulting on the front end. So this is a common English language. This is the header where we can change the website header. So currently it is set to demo localization React IE18N. Let's say I am making it my demo localization React IE18N. Let's save the changes. And we get a message file is saved successfully when the backend server results in a particular positive response. And if you refresh the page, you can see the title is getting changed into my demo localization React IE18N without any code releases. Same way, let's try to change something else. Let's change the navigation data list name. So it is currently named as data list. So I am making it to my data list. Once you save the changes, the change is immediately visible on the left navigation panel. Let's look at the coding and let's see how the coding is done related to this. As you can see, we have 3 different modules created, and under each and every module we do have 2 different language bundles. One is for English and the other one is for Spanish. So the format is not really matters here since we are changing the content from the front end. It's in kind of in a minified structure here. And this is the Spanish version of this file. And the other modules also have their own language bundles. So the second part is how we can configure those language bundles with the React IE18N library. So for that we do have one configuration file called IE18N.js. So on that, first we need to import all the language bundles that we want to configure, and along with all the imported language bundles we need to create one resource. Within the resource you can define each and every language separately, and within the language we do have the namespace plus in front of that we can define the imported language bundle. And the React IE18 is having multiple number of detection options. You can decide the user's language preference should be stored within the browser when the user is browsing the content, or when the user is returning you need to remember the language preference. Likewise, there are different language options that you can select. And the language detector has to be given for IE18N configuration. And finally, there is one other option that you can decide the fallback language. If the library did not find any kind of language preference on the browser, then it will be falling back to the default locale that you have defined here. Let's check out how you can integrate this localization feature with your code. So for that I have used this approach. So there are a bunch of other approaches available, but the approach I have used is basically define a functional component. So on that I use transaction return function within the localizer, where it will be converting the value provided by the component. Instead of doing that, you even can use a decorator function. So you can pass the t function as props to the component, then the component will be consuming it, especially from the props. Let's check out one implementation related to this. I will walk you through the home. So this is the home page that we have seen. As you can see, first thing I need to import the localizer, which is a functional component, and on that I need to pass the message. So the message format is basically the first I need to give the namespace plus the next one will be the relevant message that I want to display. As the first part per module, you can define your own module name. This is a list that I have shown you. So I have another video on that, you can check it out. So if I go into the raw template, so in the raw template, I have used a localizer to convert all the languages based on the user's preferred language. So the next important thing is how the backend functionality works. I have defined the backend server like this. I have few services available here. The first one is files. Files will be returning all the language bundles within a defined file path. So you can read the file path from your local storage, or if you want, and if you are in a kind of a distributed manner, then you can define all the language bundles within a CDN, and you can import all the language bundles from the CDN location. But for this demonstration purpose, I have defined all the language bundles within the file system of the local machine. The second one will be returning a specific file within a specific module, and the locale is representing the exact file name. And the third function is basically to update the file. When user is done with updates, then this function will be updating the language bundle. And this is a function that I use to read the folder and build a particular data structure in order to pass the files to the front end. And this basically creates a DTO, which is a data transfer object for the front end to consume. For the language editor, I have the component did mount. So the did mount will be reading the selected file name and the module from the previous page. Then it will be loaded down to the state. If I go into the render method, within the render method, we are displaying the module plus the file name, and on the bottom part it is allowing to update the content. When all the updates are done, you can select the save file. On the save file, it will be creating a particular data structure, and the data structure will be passing into the backend services in order to persist the data. This is all about the research that I have talked through this video, and all the links to all the resources that I have used within this video is you can find them on the description section. And please make sure you have all the post notifications on so you don't miss any videos posted from me. So let's meet in another video.